Israel's defense ministry has released more information now on the newly isolated COVID-19 antibody. Earlier, the defense minister had called the development a significant breakthrough in the race to find a cure for COVID-19. According to the Israel government, there are 3 reasons why their antibody is distinct. 1, the antibody is monoclonal and contains very few harmful proteins. Second, the antibody was successful in neutralizing the virus during lab tests. And finally, it has been tested against aggressive strains of the virus. Israel claims that no other cure has achieved these 3 parameters success. The institute is in the process of patenting the antibody formula. Once a patent is procured, the search will begin for an international manufacturer. Antibodies are proteins developed by the immune system to fight the virus. They remain in a person's body even after recovery. Now that the formula has been developed, it will have to be tested to gauge its efficiency and its deployability. Joining us on the broadcast this minute for more on that is Professor Amos Panet, virologist expert at the Hebrew University Faculty of Medicine, joining us live from Jerusalem. Thanks very much, Professor, for speaking with us. If you can elaborate for our viewers first, more details that have emerged and what more we can now be able to determine in terms of the latest antibody test.
Yeah, well, the Institute of Biology, which belongs to the Defense Ministry in Israel, has announced that they have isolated a monoclonal antibody against the coronavirus. And this is a breakthrough because we are all waiting for new drugs against the virus for seriously ill people. And so far, there are no good drugs. And we know from other viral infections that if we get a monoclonal antibody against the virus, which will neutralize the virus in a test tube, then there is good likelihood that this antibody, once injected to patients, severely ill patients, will block the virus and thus will help the patient to recover. We know it from other viruses, like the AIDS virus and other viruses, that when we inject antibodies, the patient recovers from the disease. And in fact, even now, before we have this monoclonal antibody, we have what we call a polyclonal antibody, which are really a plasma taken from a recovered patient, from a patient which have no signs of the disease anymore. If we take blood from this patient, we can develop from the blood a population of antibodies. We purify it to some degree, and then we inject it back to the patient. And this is done all over the world now. I believe that it's done also in India for severely ill patients. However, once we have a monoclonal antibody, it's a single molecule, which is highly purified, do not contain other impurities which are in the blood. And once we inject this one, we get much better therapy, with less side effects. And once this monoclonal antibody will be produced in large quantities, and for that we needed an industry that has large capacity to make antibodies, this can be distributed around the world and be used in all hospitals to cure patients. So we consider it as a breakthrough, a medical breakthrough in a fight against coronaviruses. Now it depends how fast they will be able to upscale the production of this antibody.
Right. So what is the next step and the path that will be taken now onwards, now that it is a huge milestone in the race to find a cure for COVID-19?
Well, the next step is really the upscaling of production. They have produced it in small scale in the laboratory, which is not enough. It's enough just to show proof of principle. Now they will have to produce it in fermenters, big containers, where they can produce thousands of liters of this antibody. And usually it's done in big pharma industries. I believe that in India you also have big pharma industries that can do it. I know, in fact, that in India there are such big pharmas that can do it. I visited India several times and seen these pharma industries. So this will be able. In Israel we don't have big pharma industries. So I believe that it will have to be done in India, United States, or Europe to upscale it fast and distribute it around the world.
Right, and before the upscaling of production, do we expect more tests to be carried out?
Yes, they will have to do some toxicity tests.
Okay.
But it's not a big issue now, because since it's a human product, it's unlikely to be toxic. It's not really a drug like we get aspirin or drug like that. It's a product of the human body. It's just engineering this human product for medical use.
All right, Professor, thanks very much indeed for joining us with those perspectives and details on what is being called a huge breakthrough and a huge milestone in the race to find a cure for COVID-19.